Greetings, Mindcrafters, and welcome to another Mindcraft discussion on this glorious kind of drizzly, raw day. But you know what? It keeps you awake when you go outside. I think it's super contemplative, actually. I love these days because I just feel that depth, you know what I mean? I just want to think and like read stuff, and you know what I mean? So anyway, my name is Kimberly Quinn, and I'm very excited today to talk to you about motivation. And there are so many different theories out there. So we're just going to talk about, to keep it simple, talk about two of the biggies, and then also I'm going to kind of tell you what motivates me the most. And so two of my favorite psychologists, one is Abraham Maslow, and he's known for his hierarchy of needs, right? So it looks like a pyramid. I don't have a whiteboard here, plus that bores people. So you just have to use your visualization techniques up here. So picture a pyramid. On the very bottom, he had physiological needs, and it makes such great sense because we can't really even think about going out with the girls, bowling night with the teenagers or whatever if we're starving. So it makes great sense. So the bottom one is the most basic of needs. It's physiological needs, which is food and water and also sex, but that's meant for reproductive purposes instead of, recreational. What it means for Abe is we need those things. And then next, he's got safety needs. So there'll be a little bit of overlap here. So and obviously we can't even live a few days without water. So water's huge, food, and it just makes such great sense because, like, again, we can't do much else if the hunger is severe and we're food insecure and things like that. So that safety, that's the next one. And that can be anything from, back in the 70s, a big scare was lead paint. And there's, we're in northern Vermont, so there are guns in houses because there's a hunting culture up here, which is fine as long as everything, obviously, most hunters are good and have things locked up and they take the class and everything's fine. However, if that's not the case and there are guns not locked up or it has nothing to do with hunting and there are guns in the house, then that's obviously a safety issue. Smoke alarms, and especially if it's a tight living situation where you couldn't get out if you had to, and things like that. And also it would mean if there were a partner or somebody who's kind of gone south on you, I don't mean like geographically, but is a threat and maybe is looking to harm somebody, all these kind of extreme situations. And so fire, guns, hostile people, blah, blah, blah. And then the next one up higher is love and belonging. And so we all need love and sense of belonging, not fitting in. Brene Brown talks about that. There's a huge difference. Fitting in is very ego related. It's just having the same conversations and sharing, and I agree, and all the conformity stuff. Whereas belonging is a true, authentic sense of being a part of something. We all need that. No matter how introverted somebody is, we all need that. So we're climbing up now. Physiological, safety, love and belonging, and then we have esteem. We need to feel good about ourselves. This involves maybe some sense of accomplishments and doing good things for people, making a difference out there, all of that. We all kind of need that. That's also part of Marty Seligman's PERMA, right? Because accomplishments would squeeze into there, because self-esteem doesn't have to necessarily be that, but it definitely works in. And then at the top, he has self-actualization, that one thing. This is where I'm going to land us back once I get next. So self-actualization, huge, enormously motivating. But just remember, without the basic needs met first, the food, the water, the safety, we really can't think about that ideal job, career, calling, that one thing we're meant to do on this earth, that, passion-driven purpose, I like to call it. We're not there if we can't, and if we got little pyramids underneath us, we've got, kids. And if we're food insecure, housing insecure, we're really not thinking about landing that ideal situation, right? So that's what Abe's about, and a lot of truth in that. And then often when you look up Abe's hierarchy of needs, they kick the top one off, which I think is ridiculous. So it's self-actualization, which is that one thing you were meant to do on this earth. We all have one. That one purpose you're meant to do. And after that is self-transcendence. Not sure why they bumped that off sometimes. Probably didn't have Abe's permission to do so, I'm thinking. But self-transcendence is gigantic because that is sort of our opportunity, our yearning to be part of something bigger than ourselves. So that doesn't necessarily have to be Nelson Mandela, John F. Kennedy, Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King, we can just name, and Mother Teresa, and then we can just name all these phenomenal human beings. That can also be us taking over the Girl Scouts, or, becoming part of something that's bigger than us that helps and feeds a lot of spirits. So there's that. So that's one huge motivational theory, which is that of Abraham Maslow. And my other favorite psychologist, you may know of him because this is where we get into the self-actualization, passion-driven purpose thing. So stay with me. Viktor Frankl. Wow. He is the author of Man's Search for Meaning, and if you know of him, he was a Holocaust survivor who survived being in, I believe he was in 2 separate camps. I forget which show, Auschwitz and somewhere else. Anyway, horrible. We all know the horrible atrocities and just heinous. I mean, there aren't even words to describe how bad, that whole thing was and what the damage it did to people, obviously. But Viktor Frankl, however, maintained this positive mindset to survive every day. Sometimes he would have conversations with his wife in his mind. She was at a different camp, but he would just keep it alive by having conversations with her. He also wrote his manuscript. He did a lot of good things for people. He also had what he called a cabaret with literally all these emaciated men who were cold and starving, and they would get together and have like a comedy hour. So, and then there's a lot more than that. And he puts it, obviously in his book, there's all kinds of the real deal and different things that happen when the Nazis said you have 2 choices. You go this way or that way. One way is the gas chamber, the other way is to the food line or whatever. And it was a dice roll for them. They had fun with that stuff, as we all know. So he has a lot of stories like that in there. So the thing with Viktor Frankl is he saw the primary motivator for us as meaning. Man's Search for Meaning is the name of his book, and it's a life changer. If you have not read it, I would strongly encourage it. And if he could find meaning and purpose while starving to death, freezing to death, and all that loss, and having his life threatened all day, every day, it makes it feel possible for the rest of us. I'm not saying to minimize our own circumstances. It's a life changer. My students say that. I use it in Mindcraft. And so he also came up with, from his experience there, something called logotherapy, and he thought that there's all different types of therapies out there. Logo meaning, a Greek for meaning, that really, and he talks about this, if you take people who have done some horrible crimes or addicted to all kinds of things, he says all this, that help that person who seems to be so down and out, and are down and out. We're not saying they're not down and out, they are down and out. Help that, he says, man, this was back in the 60s, he was saying this stuff. Help that man who's done the crimes, who's addicted to drugs, and I'm just doing little brackets around man, help him find meaning, and you turn his whole life around. When we feel like we have a reason to get up in the morning. Without a sense of meaning and purpose, it's a straight road to depression. So I agree with both of these gentlemen, and no question about the meaning. We are wired for a sense of meaning and purpose, like we are wired for breathing oxygen. My friend Tom and I, Dr. Tom, who does all the synchronicity stuff, we are also in a project with the Templeton Foundation out of Columbia University. We're doing a project on this, actually. Spirituality, meaning, and purpose in the current spirituality crisis with young adults. Anyway, just a little side ticket, because you'll be hearing about that more of that later. And then my own thing with my own motivation, which totally fits with both of them, but right now I'm going to run with Viktor Frankl, the meaning and purpose thing, because especially being a fast minder, we can't even fake it, because that is our executive functioning system. We are passion driven. We can't even fake it, which is why we're often called immature and irresponsible. Why can't there's things in adulthood you don't like it. We know that, and the smaller stuff, like take out the garbage or whatever, we know we can push through those things. As far as a calling though, we can tough it out, and I've certainly done jobs with having kids and needing a little extra income and things like that. But when it comes to sticking it out through that stuff, knowing I had my eye on the prize, the passion-driven thing is where it's at, because I just wake up every day I'm an educator, right? So I fly around the classroom teaching, I fly around the stage at different colleges and universities speaking, and I fly around the stage at Champlain College doing workshops. And I know for a fact that's what I was put on this world to do, is to educate and to help people see their own value. Spreading the positivity all over the place helps people to see their own value. And that's it. Apologies, I had to jump off there for a second. I had a little coughing fit, just dry. And so for me, the motivation is intrinsic. For the fast minders, it's intrinsic, versus extrinsic is like paychecks, people's approval. We're not saying we don't need paychecks. I'm not that person. I absolutely need a paycheck. And it doesn't mean that we're leaving that out. It's just meaning that that's the main motivation is intrinsic. Like I absolutely, it brings me joy to work with young adults, joy every day in every way. And when you listen to that inner voice and follow what makes you feel good, authentically good, I don't mean like shallow, hedonistic pleasure. I mean, not that pleasure is bad either, but I'm talking about listening to that authentic voice. Oprah says it all the time. You just know. When you pay attention to how you feel, then you just know, and you follow that, listen to it, then it's green lights, showing you which way to go, red lights telling you don't go this way. Once you get into that allowing place of listening to that inner voice, in receptive mode, as Abraham Hicks would say, and Wayne Dyer talks about it too, inspiration. I am the most motivated when I get these inspired impulses that I just have to do. I have to write that Psychology Today article. I just got the idea came in my head earlier today, and I wasn't even planning to write one this weekend, but now I have to because it came in my head. So that sort of thing. And as Wayne Dyer says, inspiration comes from in spirit, right? That divine connection that attaches us all to each other and flows through us like a river, right? This kind of divine collected. And so I am my most inspired when certainly I've got my basic needs met, like Abraham Maslow said, when I've got a sense of meaning and purpose, like Viktor Frankl said, and when I'm inspired, like Wayne Dyer, Abraham Hicks, and Oprah say, then I'm flying high. I hyper-focus, can't shut it off, and I feel like I'm just in the flow. And that, of course, is the work of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. When we lose track of who we are, not in a codependent way, but in a part of the universe way, we become part of that Psychology Today article, part of playing the piano. We are one with the instrument. We're one with in the dance, and we don't know the boundaries, and we are in this state of consciousness that's just joyful and fulfilled. And that is what I'm telling you. I'm telling you, that is living the dream. Motivation at its best. Inspired in spirit. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from my very chilly downstairs in northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.